Well, good afternoon, everyone. Quite a little change from a week ago today. You never know what you get in this country. But I'm glad we have today. It's nice, really nice. You know, I watch the news quite a bit, and I've read the news headlines here, I guess a week or so ago, indicating that hate crimes were up 17% this year. Okay? That's not such good news. You know, our nation is divided. How is divided now? It's been probably since the Civil War. You know, we've got conservatives on one side, liberals right and left. And there exists, you know, quite a little evil around the world. And in this country, we have drug problems. We have all kinds of problems. And man seems to be kind of slipping here. But you know, this is not the first time this has happened. Actually, let's take a look at Genesis 6, starting in verse 5, and let's see what happened many, many years ago. Go to Genesis chapter 6, starting in verse 5. And the law said that the wickedness of humankind, by the way, I'm reading from a New Revised Standard Version, so it's a little bit different. But the Lord saw that the wickedness of humankind was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made mankind on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out things. And then Noah found grace in his heart, or God found Noah, and things went on from there. Then, as bad as it was, we go to John 3:16, very famous verse. So God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believed in him may not perish but have eternal life. Indeed, God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. So, he is our example. So Christ is here to show us the way of things. And today, I want to talk about one of the qualities which Christ taught his disciples to follow him. And this is kind of like a word study, but it's one of the qualities that he had, and I think we should consider. And that is compassion. Compassion defined as kindliness, mercy, forgiveness, real love by God. Compassion. And you know, we get really busy in life nowadays, and we don't really have time for lots of things, and we buzz on through our lives. But it is important that we understand this aspect of Jesus Christ and of God the Father. And we have some examples in the Bible. I'm going to go through a few of them because by studying them, we can kind of know how God thinks and how we ought to be learning to think and how our attitudes ought to be. Our first example here I'm going to use is Genesis 21:17. Genesis 21, verse 17. And this is kind of an unusual one maybe, but this is after Sarah saw to it we're having some problems, and she caused Hagar and Ishmael to be sent away. And I think I'll start in verse 15. It says here, when the water and skin was gone, and this is Hagar, she cast the child under the bushes, and she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot, for she said, do not let me look on the death of my child. And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy, where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make a great nation of him. So here's this lady and her child, and they're out in the desert in some kind of unsure circumstances. Looks kind of bleak, but God has pity on them, looks after them, keeps an eye on them, and just merciful and compassionate to them. My next example that I use is in Micah. Micah chapter 7, Micah chapter 7, verses 18 and 19. There's something here we need to notice. And who is a God like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over transgression of the remnant of your possession? He does not retain his anger forever, because he delights in showing clemency, and he will again have compassion on us. If we look back up in verse 18, it says, he does not retain his anger forever. So that's something to be compassionate. It says right there, he does not retain his anger forever. Now there's another example of this in Psalms 145. Turn to Psalms 145. Psalms 145, verses 8 and 9. It says, let me hear of your steadfast love in the morning, for in you I put my trust. Hold it. One new Bible here, not this one. 145, verses 8. The Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. The Lord is good to all, and his compassion is over all that he has made. There again, in verse 8, they emphasize the fact that the Lord is slow to anger. I think slow to anger is something we need to be concerned with. And then, I'm going to go to Zechariah, chapter 12. And we'll go to verse 10. It says, I will pour out a spirit of compassion and supplication on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So here God says, I will pour out a spirit of compassion. So this spirit of compassion is something that God says he will pour out on these people at this time. Actually, compassion is found in many Bible verses, actually. If we go on now into the New Testament, and we'll start in Luke chapter 19. I'm sorry, Luke chapter 15. Okay, now this has to do with the parable of the prodigal son. And it says here, well, starting in verse 19, the prodigal son decided to go back, and here he says, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands. So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, and his father saw him, he was filled with compassion, and ran out and put his arms around him. So here we see that the prodigal son was a receiver of compassion from his father. The prodigal son had done things that were wrong. In a way, that's kind of like us. All of us have done things that are wrong. And yet, our Heavenly Father still has compassion on us, and still greets us with loving arms. Okay, let's go to Luke 19, verse 41. And here we have Jesus. He's coming into Jerusalem, and he gets close to the city, and he's overcome with feelings for his people and for the city. And it says here, as he came near and saw the city, he wept over it, And then it goes on to, you can see here that he had real compassion for the city, had real feelings for people. He knew what was going to happen, and in this case, it bothered him a lot, and his feelings were quite evident. I'm going to go to one more verse in Luke. And this time we're going to go to Luke chapter 10. Starting in verse 25. And this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. I'm going to go through this. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but I'm going to go through it one more time because it brings out the point here. It says, just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus, and the teacher, he said to the teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And he says, well, what is written in the law? What do you read there? And he answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said to him, you have given the right answer. Do this and you will live. However, he being a lawyer, he says here he wanted to justify himself or put Jesus on the spot. I don't know. But anyway, it goes on. But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? And Jesus replied, a man was going down to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him and beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him. When he saw him, he was moved with compassion or pity. And he went to him, and he bandaged up his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day he took up 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper and said, take care of him. When I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? And he said, the one who showed mercy. And Jesus said to him, and let's just stop there. Okay, he was talking to a lawyer a couple thousand years ago, and yet we have this recorded. It's recorded here today. Okay, so obviously what's recorded today is not for that lawyer. He's long since dead. But then he said, go and do likewise. And I think that was something that he's telling us to do. Go and do likewise. We should learn to be compassionate. We should learn to take care of things that need to be taken care of. You know, I've seen people, usually politicians will be out talking, and they'll say, you know, there'll be problems someplace, and they'll say, boy, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. But you know, sometimes it takes more than that. It takes some action. You have to do something, you know. And Jesus told us, he says, go and do likewise. And I think we have to learn to be a compassionate person. A person who cares. And in this world, we're so caught up in everything else, it's a little difficult to have that kind of an attitude. But it's kind of an attitude that we should have. And you know, those things sneak up on you. I've gotten in situations before, and if your attitude is not right, you'll say the wrong thing, or you won't really be helpful. But if you're thinking and if your mind is working in a compassionate way, then you will be compassionate, and you will do the right thing. And then it will turn out well for you, you know. And then your light will shine. It will. But we need to learn these things, you know. And by the way we live, we kind of tell people who we are, you know. And you really can make an impression, a good impression, or a helpful impression to people in this world now if we keep that attitude, you know. And it's almost, and it really does, what if I got? And to be honest with you, if you're doing things right and good, you don't even have to say a word. It'll show through. So this is an attitude that we need to be thinking about and try to incorporate in our